Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about how Trump literally blew up the markets yesterday. I mean, it was one of the craziest things I have personally witnessed in the markets. Maybe top five, maybe top 10. We've had the COVID thing, we've had other big news events where price has kind of gone crazy, but yesterday was really, really, yeah, crazy and hilarious in a way. If you guys don't know, Trump pretty much did a lot of, tariff work on multiple countries. So the whole market just kind of just blew up and just kept going up and down. And yeah, we're going to go over some of the charts. We're going to go over some of the coins and Bitcoin. But I just quickly wanted to show you guys that, uh, yeah, the markets were going crazy. They were genuinely going crazy. And we can see yesterday, if we go to something like Bitcoin, even on the hourly, right, Bitcoin was going up, 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 up. The news was at 4. It shot up all the way to pretty much $89,000, almost up to $89,000. A few hours later, 3 hours later, it slammed down to pretty much 82 and a half. And now we're currently at just sub 82K. When we go to something like even Euro JPY, we can see Euro pair was chilling. This thing went up a great amount of points. I mean, holy crap, 140 points. And then also just absolutely slammed down the next 3 hours. I mean, we go to any pairs. I mean, the British pound versus the US dollar, right? We can see the markets have been very, very volatile. They weren't as nearly explosive as something else, but yeah, you can see USD JPY just slammed down. A bunch of pairs just went crazy. Something like gold yesterday. I mean, this thing was consolidating. This thing was moving sideways. Look at this. This is the 5-minute chart. So it just kept going up and down, up, 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 down, down, up, 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 and it just kind of kept going crazy. I mean, even today in the morning, gold crashed all the way down to $3,055, and then within 2 hours, it bounced back all the way to 31.35. Okay, that is pretty much unheard of. That is pretty much unheard of. I did take a trade actually. I did kind of get in late. I took a trade somewhere around here. It was something like this. It was either this or this. I don't remember. Something like that. And we just held up until roughly over here. So it was a clean, nice, risk to reward. It was kind of crazy. I did not expect it to pump actually this high, but the momentum was not slowing down. And then when I did see some momentum slow down, I was like, all right, I'm pretty much out of this trade. So we're gonna go 1 to 2, maybe a little bit less. Right, maybe a little bit less. But ladies and gentlemen, I mean, damn, yeah, it was absolutely crazy. And this resulted for some meme coins and other coins to crash. You can see that turbo went down a lot over the last day, right? The Trump tariffs came out, this thing went down. Let's see how much percentage this is. 11, 12%, maybe even like more, 12 to 13%, because I didn't take it all the way from the highs. Something like ICP also crashed. I mean, everything had the exact same type of chart. Like literally everything had the exact same type of chart. And this is all mainly because of the Bitcoin going down a couple $1,000, which is why altcoins followed. But man, right, people are worried about tariffs. What do I think is going to happen in the market long term with this? Personally, I am not worried, right? I am not worried. For me, technical analysis is pretty basic, and anything in the middle is just more of a distraction, right? We talked about Bitcoin constantly, having this low, this high, creating a higher high, and it has to form some kind of, higher low, right? The exact 100% price, we don't know, but we know generally it is most likely going to bottom between 80,000 max. I would say like 74, 73K, and that's really, really, really being generous. But the bigger picture still stands that we are creating a staircase upwards, right? We are creating a staircase upwards, and the bigger picture is still the same. So we are still bullish, right? We are still bullish. These little tariffs, for me, doesn't really matter, right? I know people say, oh, tariff this, tariff that, Trump this, Trump news this. look, we know the global liquidity is coming to the market very, very soon. We know that the purpose of Bitcoin right now is to create a higher low so we can push higher, right? We know that. We know that when we go to something like Bitcoin dominance, is that we have to go roughly between 68 to 71% to pretty much get a crash for altcoins. We know this, right? I've been talking about Bitcoin dominance for literally over a year now, ever since February, March time of 2024, when I kind of created my channel and started to upload consistently. We always talked about it, right? Even here, when we had, this moment where altcoins, pumped a lot, altcoins pumped a lot. Okay, remember this. So altcoins were, let's say something like Render was roughly at let's say $4 and even, like $4.20, right? $4.20, and it went upwards of almost $12. So almost, that 2.5 to 3 times range in just about a month, maybe 5 weeks. Okay. Look at Bitcoin dominance. Okay. Bitcoin dominance was this the same time where Bitcoin dominance started to drop, and this is where most altcoins kind of peaked before they dumped again. So, November 18th, we can see the date, November 25th, and then early December, right? When we take something like Render, let's see where Render peaked. Early December, Render peaked before Bitcoin dominance started to just go up and up and up higher, right? So we can see, but how much percentage did we drop roughly in, Bitcoin dominance? Let's just say from 61% all the way down to, even 54 and a half. That is what we're talking about, 7% on average, right? Depending where you want to like look from. So we dropped 7% in dominance, and something like Render shot up almost 3 times the amount. Okay. So imagine what's going to happen when, ladies and gentlemen, we start doing what we have to do, which is number one, when we go to something like the daily, is reclaim this level, probably have a little bit of sell off, and then push higher, right? And then push higher, right? If we push higher and higher and Bitcoin goes higher and higher, right? Bitcoin goes to 120, 130, 140K, wherever it's meant to go. Imagine what's going to happen when it's like, okay, it's time for Bitcoin dominance to crash. It's time for Bitcoin to start going sideways. It's time for the liquidity to be at an all-time high. And altcoins start pumping, right? If if we get to even 70% and we have a big crash, kind of like the way we have here before it goes sideways, right? So let's say we go from 70% to roughly 62%, 61%. That's going to be more than what we had back in late November and December. So if we get something very, very similar, let's say Render goes back from a couple bucks back to already to 12, 13, 14. Imagine what's going to happen when, things go sideways, they accumulate, and then we drop another, 15, 20 to 30% in dominance, right? Imagine how high altcoins can truly, truly pump, right? More money, Bitcoin at its all-time high, Bitcoin dominance dropping, then the market shifts from slowly it being at its total peak to then still being at its peak but Bitcoin suffering, and then the money going into altcoins, and then Bitcoin starts dumping even more because then even more money is going to altcoins, and then the cycle is over. Imagine that, right? So for me, I'm still very, very optimistic. I'm still very, very optimistic. I don't really care about the news that comes out overall because we are still on track, right? I'm just looking at the bigger picture, and I believe the bigger picture will benefit us. Yes, the people that bought in last year and a little like earlier, they're probably not happy because they're break even, they're at losses or whatever, and I understand. But when we look at the actual blueprint, the success, and what we need for altcoins, season to happen, what we need for Bitcoin to do, everything is still on track. I get it. People need, confirmation bias, which is why something like this, when Bitcoin's low and, kind of going sideways, up and down a lot for a couple of weeks, is very, very mentally dragging and annoying. But you have to realize that the bigger picture looks absolutely beautiful. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.